Hi. Ignore my pasta boiling in the background. It's me again. Back so soon. Let's not get used to it. So the reason I decided to film a video already is because January was a very strange month. As you may know or may not, in my last video I said that my goal for 2021 is to read 50 books, which is 50 less than I usually set my goal at, and for them to be a little bit more serious. So that didn't work out, like, at all. I mean, no, it didn't work out at all. It wasn't a complete failure. I did read a couple books that are usually not something that I would pick up, but I wanted to for a very long time, and because they were a little bit more difficult, I never actually did, read them or put any efforts into finishing them when I did try to read them. And I just kind of hung to my usual comfortable genre of romance. And I didn't exactly fully step out of my comfort zone, but at the same time I now think that it was a little bit unrealistic of me to expect of myself to completely forego the books that I really enjoyed reading and the books that kind of are my way of relaxing in favor of books that would be more difficult for me to read, right? Like that makes no sense. Why would I do that, right? So this month, January 2021, I read 16 books. Oh my god, I'm already 60 books into my 50 books. Without further ado, I want to talk about these 16 books. We've got a great range of genres here. We've got some sci-fi, we've got some romance, we've got some non-fiction. Yeah, she's read some non-fiction, she's smart, she can do things like that. So, I have my iPad here because I'm filming on my phone. It's very old, but whatever. And let's go into my Goodreads and see what the first book is. So the first book I read this year was Den of Vipers by no fucking clue. Not a clue. The letters, very small. I've got like -7 in both my eyes. Den of Vipers, you've probably seen it. You've probably seen it because, as I recently found out, it is apparently very popular on, what did they call it? Book Talk? TikTok for books. Not something I watch a lot. I try to steer clear of TikTok because every time I go on there it sucks me in for a couple hours and then I feel like dying at the end. But apparently, over the last couple of months, this bad boy became quite the phenomenon on there. And a lot of people are praising it, a lot of people are hating it. Some of the people I follow were like, what is this? I read this like after the 1st of January, like right after my celebrations. I was in my grandmother's. I had absolutely nothing to do except, write my dissertation, but who needs time for that? So the reason I picked it up was 100% honest, the cover. Look at it. It's beautiful. It's the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I thought it was gorgeous. Then I looked at the, what it's about. And this ended up being a reverse Harlem mafia romance. I love me a mafia romance. I love me a reverse Harlem romance. This is the first time I see it as a combination. How could I not pick it up? So I gave it, I think, 4 out of 5. Either 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 stars. I'll put the stars on here later when I'm editing because she knows better than I do. This book. Let me give you the basic premise of the book. So, the book follows our Vipers, which are like a gang, sort of, and a girl. So this father's girl, who she hasn't spoke to for years and years and years, I imagine, I think, ended up racking up a lot of debts with this gang, with this mafia family, with these boys, let's say. And he decided that the best way to get out of the situation when they were about to, I don't know, cut his fingers off, kill him, whatever it is mafia dudes do in books, he decided to sell her. And they bought her. Which is really where I was like, okay, suspending my disbelief. Money, some random chick. Money, some random chick. Okay. So they agree, and then they send a couple goons to her, bar, which she owns, and she kicks their asses. And at that exact point was where it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna enjoy this book. Because we all know that a heroine who is over the top badass is what I want whenever there is a very big power dynamic in the book. If it's like a contemporary romance and it's just a relationship, I don't care if the heroine is a Mary Sue. I mean, I do. It's a little annoying, but I won't like DNF a book because of that. Here and in bully romances, there is a power dynamic. And if the character is over the top fucking badass, I don't care. I'm into it. She kicks their asses and they hear about this and they're like, oh god, we gotta go teach her some manners. And they do, and they kidnap her and they bring her to their penthouse and they, I don't even know, lock her up in a room and decide to treat her all nice, get her clothes and shit. This was so bad. Why did I like this so much? There was really not a lot of conflict in this book. Like, she wanted to leave for a while and they weren't sure what to do with her, which like, realistically speaking, you should have probably thought of that before you agreed to buy her off her dad. For the Reverse Harlem part, I don't remember any of the characters' names. It's been a month, I read a lot. But I do remember one very specifically, and that was like the relationship that I liked most, because in this like gang of group, there is one who is the torture expert, I guess you could call him, who is portrayed to be a little unhinged, like, okay, not a little, like a lot unhinged. And when she first starts to like interact with all these characters and get to know them, I absolutely fucking loved the fact that she kind of got her connection with him first. Like, here is this absolutely unhinged, I was 100% sure, was like, how is she going to date this psycho? And then she starts forming a connection with him first, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling this, I'm liking it. Oh, there's 4 of them. Yeah, I remember now. There's the quiet leader type, the, I think his name was Renzo, because I think he's in like gambling and something else. Then there is the fighter with a broken heart and trauma. And then there's the psychotic dude. My favorite, the psychotic dude, 100%. After the Vipers, I finally, for some reason, had the balls to pick up Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So, I think with this one, I'll start with the plot, even though I'm pretty sure anybody who watches BookTube already knows the plot and has probably already read the book. I am, as usually, very late to the party, which is very on brand for me, really. So, Cruel Prince is the story of 2 sisters, Jude and some other bitch, who have their parents murdered by her mother's ex-husband, who also happens to be Faye. After he accidentally, in a murderous rage, murders her parents, he decides, fuck, I have daughters now. He only came for the one that was his, but now he has 3. Surprise, surprise. What do you know? So he whisks these girls away to Fairyland. I'm pretty sure that was what it's actually called. Maybe like Feyre or something, but I pronounced it Fairyland the entire time. So he whisks these girls away to Fairyland, where they grow up around Fae. They're human, doesn't change the fact that they're human, but they learn all the customs, they learn how things go. It was really interesting world building. So these 2 girls, they go to school with all the other fairy children, and what do you know? The fairy children, not big fans at all. They're targeted specifically by the prince, who for some reason goes to school with all the other children. Let's ignore that fact. By the prince, the youngest prince, there's a lot of princes. And the story sort of follows Jude as she gets more and more entangled in court politics. At first, she wants to become a knight, and she's training to become a knight, but her uncle, the guy who murdered her parents, who she's not really big fans of, but at the same time, he kind of raised her. So that creates a difficult dynamic in their relationship. He doesn't let her go to the championship this time around, and he says, like, if you can prove to me that you're serious about this, I'll let you go next time. But she gets more and more entangled in court politics. This is a trilogy. I read The Cruel Prince, I read The Wicked King, and I read Queen of Nothing, all in like the span of 3 days. It was exhausting. Did I like them? That is a good question. As I started reading Cruel Prince, I became more aware of the fact that this is very much YA, and I never did like YA. It took me a long time to accept the fact that I didn't like YA. I didn't even like YA when I was a YA. I remember reading, I remember buying all these like young adult books like The Maze Runner and Divergent, and there was a bunch of others that I can't remember it now, just those big ones. And I never did particularly love them. So when I started reading this, I was like, oh, I remember why I don't read YA now. It's just not my thing. There's a lot of plot and a lot of shit going on that I'm like, why am I reading this? But what really, really stuck out to me throughout the series, and the reason why I think I gave the last book 5 stars, was the character of Jude. Like, okay, I'll be honest with you. I gave all of these books all their stars specifically for Jude. You could clearly see Jude's progression from the little scared girl to giving back to falling off her pedestal then, and then raising onto that pedestal and having to like fight for what she wants, having to figure out what she wants. Anytime Jude was the main focus of what's going on rather than describing events, which wasn't very often, I mean, she was the main character, I was really enamored and really interested in the story. So that's why I really liked it. I mean, at the end, honestly, Jude was my bae. I love Jude. She was very much one of those badass characters that's not written terribly. I can still read those terribly written characters who are over-the-top badass and their leather jackets and with their motorcycles and their underground fighting. Like, I can suspend my disbelief and I can be like, sure, you're a badass bitch. But Jude was really a badass bitch. Then I read The Hunter by L.J. Shen. I saw The Hunter on Goodreads for a long time before I actually picked it up because, like, I don't know, the blurb put me off it, as they usually do. But when I did pick it up, I was pleasantly surprised. The Hunter is about a rich white boy who is forced to live with a non-rich, poor white girl. That's the premise, that's the book, they fall in love, it's all very basic. It was very basic. And it wasn't particularly like mind-blowing either. I don't remember what I gave it. I think 3 stars. I think 3 stars would be fair for The Hunter. It wasn't particularly good, but it wasn't particularly bad either. It was cute at times, and I did like both of the characters. I was surprised because, like, at the beginning, Aiden, or whatever the fuck his name was, really was a giant dick, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay. He came around. That's all I really have to say about it. I've forgotten what the fuck it was. Then I read Pucked by Helena Hunting. By Helena Hunting. Helena. And this was one of the like hockey romances that I have seen for ages. It's been on my iPad for years. And I decided, okay, I want a good old like straight hockey romance. Haven't read those in a while, right? I remember why now. I gave Pucked 1 star. And if I didn't give Pucked 1 star, I will go on Goodreads and I will change my rating to give it 1 star because the more I think about it, the madder I get. It was not a bad book per se. It was about a girl who works in like the money managing for rich hockey players place. And was he a hockey player? Was he a football? No, Puck. They meet because her brother is in a team that played, I think he's in the same guys' team. Yeah, he's also a hockey player. And they meet at a party after a game and they have a connection and they kiss. And then in the evening he comes by her place and he's like, let's hang out. And she's like, I'm not fucking you. And then she fucks him. That's pretty much the premise. After that she thinks it's like a one-night stand. He's never gonna see her again. He has like a playboy reputation. And she's like, I'm not gonna be one of those slutty bitches. We'll get to that. We will get to that. Turns out, not so fast. He likes you. He starts messaging her, sending flowers, all the good shit. He asks her out on a date. They start dating. And I think I pieced out of this book at like 85%. I swear to God, I had like 50 pages left, less. But I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it. Throughout the beginning of the book, our main character uses terms that are shocking to me. I will read you direct quotes. That is what I'm here for, am I not? I've got my iPad. I can click on things. She was one of those skanky types, dressed in a super short skirt with cleavage spilling out of her low-cut blouse. Skanky. Right. The slutbag mumbles something. I'm fine. I contracted a contagious hockey whore disease. Did you know? And finally, last but not least, I can see why the woman behind me addressed for their shift at the corner store. The subtlety in that one. That was quite good. It wasn't. Oh my god. Oh, the slut shaming. The title of my Goodreads review is very appropriately named Everyone's a Whore Except Me, because that is exactly what our main character was. Every single fucking human being on the planet, except for her best friend, as usual, was a fucking slut in her opinion. Everybody who dated or wanted to fuck a hockey player and lived our goddamn lives, whores, sluts, prostitutes. I swear to God, I've never been this pissed reading a book in my entire life. I let it go for the first like 60 or so percent. Like I was like flicking through it, I was like, okay, whatever. For a moment there, for a small, tiny moment there, I genuinely thought that this would be part of her redemption arc. Not like a redemption arc, she was gonna grow from this. She was going to like have all these opinions about women and think that they're whores and sluts and whatnot. Then she would start dating him. Then the media would like start to speculate and they would start to call her all these things, and she would realize how shit it feels to be on the receiving end of this kind of like shaming. And she would decide that she's no longer going to treat women as if they're all terrible fucking disease-ridden whores. Didn't happen. I was almost done with the book. She was still fucking calling people diseased hockey sluts. I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. And I will never fucking read that author ever again. I mean, like, granted, her next book could be good. Her other books could be also good. But am I going to waste my fucking time on trying to find a book which isn't going to, like, shame women for me? No. I'll just read authors who I know aren't going to shame women for me. Thanks. Alright. Good. We good on that one? Moving on. Yeah, Violet Bends Over Backwards by Lana Del Rey. Yes, Lana Del Rey. This one. Didn't actually read it. Got the audiobook for it. I have a new app. It gives me audiobooks. I love it. Oh, I mean, I don't know. I think I gave it, what, like 3 stars, 2 stars? There's not a lot I can say about it. I read poetry to feel things, and if poetry does not tug at the heartstrings, I'm usually not very into it. And this time, I was like, okay, this is very artsy. I like all the static noise in the background that makes it seem old, the way, you know, Lana loves. I love her voice, obviously. I love the way she reads the poems, duh. But the content, it was alright. It was nothing special. I've never heard poems try to convince you that they're poems quite as much, so I was just not impressed. Then I read The Invitation by Mickeyland. Mickeyland is like a really popular author. I see her all the time. I'm pretty sure I have read other books by her, but I can't quite remember any of them right now. I think The Inappropriate, that book that last year sent me into like a 2-month reading slump, I think that was Mickeyland. But I didn't know that when I picked up The Invitation, and I read it and I thought, oh wow, that sounds pretty interesting. So I decided, fuck it, I'll go with it. And to be honest, the book's best part was that very first couple chapters, maybe it was even like the first chapter, which is sort of like the premise. When you're given the premise, you're said like, okay, so this girl goes to crash a wedding. So she talks to her best friend and he's like, fuck it, let's crash this wedding. And okay, in the premise, it made it seem like she was the one whose idea that was. And in the book, you know, obviously we had to make her a goody two-shoes, but whatever. So they crash this wedding. They really do run out with like a bunch of expensive champagne. It is a fucking hoot, and I loved it. The beginning was so strong. In the middle, the most I was interested in is her trying to build her perfume business. Didn't hate it. I think I gave it like 4 stars. It was very cutesy. It was very fun. It was exactly what I needed at the moment. Was it like the best romance I've ever read or even close to it? No, it was like very middle class, but it is what it is. I never really expected more from it, so I'm happy. Then I read Sugar, this one. Oh my god, how did I even read this? So I was like scrolling through my computer ebook collection when I came across Sugar. And Sugar has a really interesting cover because it has this hot guy, right? It has this hot guy and it has Sugar. And I was like, weird. And then it has that font at the bottom. That bottom font is what brought me in. I saw that font and I was like, that is the ugliest shit I've ever seen. That cover is so completely ruined by that font that I am now intrigued as to what the fuck this is going to be about. So I clicked it. I was like, fine, I'll just read a page. Maybe I'll remember what this is. Maybe I've even read it before. I didn't. It starts off with our main girl. She is just leaving a gay rave in the middle of the fucking nowhere, wearing like glitter. She gets in her car, this car, and she starts driving down the road, blasting really, really loud screamo music, right? Already to a great start. She stops by this guy who's sitting on his bike in the middle of the road, and he's like, girl, get back in the car. Don't get out of the car for strange men in the middle of the road. And she's like, nah, I'm fine. Who are you? Do you need help? He's like, yeah, I guess I do. They have this like back and forth. She's psychotic. I love her. He also loves her because, I mean, who doesn't love psychotic bitches? And she gives him a ride back. He finds out who she is. They live in the same town. And that's when I realized this is book 15. This is the part where he started like recounting events from previous books. So that's when I realized, oh, this is clearly not the first book in the series. So I went on Goodreads, checked, book 15 in a series I've never even heard of. Character so top-notch, I decide to continue reading. She ends up being an absolute delight. She has mermaid-colored hair. She is covered in tattoos, I think. She's covered in piercings. She reads smut. No, she does not read smut. She reads snuff fiction as a way of relaxation. I'm in love with this bitch. He's in love with this bitch. They started to have like, and she is a giant commitment-phobe. Like, any idea of commitment gives her like panic attacks, which I love. So he doesn't want commitment, she doesn't want commitment. They're like, okay, let's bang. They bang, it's good for them. I was like, okay with it. Again, sometimes these authors are just like not smut writers, but whatever. Which is when he's like, I kind of like this bitch. Maybe we do want commitment. And she's like, no. And I love that. That's the premise of the book. I'm not going to say anything else about it because I literally don't know anything else about it. Anytime we were in his mind, I did skip pages because when he started going on and on about like a plot, I was not there for the plot. Next, Power Place by whomever. Power Place is a gay college romance between a hockey superstar and a nerd, essentially. It's very cute. It's very sweet. You don't even need to know the premise. Just go into it like completely blindly. If you usually read romance, then it's not going to be anything surprising to you. I thought that the whole angst aspect was so gone in this book and also the next one, because I'm reading the next one at the moment, and I love that. They're very relaxing. Sometimes you'll pick up these books and you'll be expected that during like the 80% part when everything falls apart and all of the characters want to die and you want to die and there's homophobes and people are angry and nobody loves each other and you're just like, why? Doesn't happen here. Maybe that's a spoiler, maybe it isn't, but I feel like I would want to know the fact that, like, this book is very much like a warm hug. Like, these two characters, they meet, they fall in love, they work out their differences in a, like, realistic and grown-up manner. Love that. Next is Roommate by Serena Bowen, and I honestly don't have anything to say about it. I can't remember what this was. I think this was this was definitely like an book, and it was a, farm romance? Is farm romance a thing, or did I just make that up? It was definitely something to do with a farm. Serena Bowen, since him, hasn't really blown me away with anything. I think that one before was Eden Finley, who I'm beginning to trust a little bit more with my type books, because she put out a lot of them that I really, really like. And the small town vibe also doesn't really work for me, nor does farming. Trust me, I've been on a farm, I've worked on a farm, nothing is sexy about farming. After that, I read Subzero, which is what is it? It's not a manga, is it? Is it a manga? It's a graphic novel? Is it a graphic novel? It's something. I was bored one day, and I was doing something else at the moment, and I was like, okay, what can I do? So I was on Goodreads, obviously, I'm always on Goodreads. I use that shit more than Instagram these days. And I saw it, I clicked on it, I went and found it on the internet for free. I love shit I can find on the internet for free. It's about like shifters, dragon shifters who are fighting, and the prince and the princess have to get married in order to like restore peace to their land. It's good. I really don't have anything else to say about it. Like, it's free on the internet and it's a fantastic way to pass an hour of your time. Then I decided it's time to get serious, and I read Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I read half of this, and then I found out that it is on my audiobook app, and that Neil deGrasse Tyson actually, like, voices it, which I love. First of all, I love when authors voice their own audiobooks, and second of all, I love Neil deGrasse Tyson's voice. Ever since, like, Cosmos, I've been enamored with listening to him. There's like 3 people in the world I could listen to nonstop, and that's Neil deGrasse Tyson, David Attenborough, and Stephen Fry. I love them 3. So I listened to the rest of the audiobook, and I found that I like the audiobook experience a lot more. It was a lot more engaging. I could focus a lot easier on the like subject matter it provided. Not that it was very difficult to focus. Like, I would have thought it's very much an introduction. Let's just say it's a very much a basic introduction, kind of like what you would get from like those YouTube videos that explain shit to you, that don't go very far in depth. Like, they try their best, but they're clearly like, you're stupid, and this is like the most you're going to get. And that's pretty much what this book was, and I'm thankful for it because I am stupid, and that is all I wanted to get. So I'm happy. Then I listened to best audiobook experience, by the way. I listened to this for like hours, like not even reading the book at the same time. I was just in bed listening, and I didn't fall asleep, didn't do nothing. The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. God, why did I leave this till now? This is such a book I needed to talk about. God, I have so many things to say about it. So, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me is by Marina Zapata. And last year I read Kulti, didn't love it. This year I was like, I've seen it for ages. I don't want to read it. I'm never gonna read it. And then I saw that it had the marriage of convenience trope, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll read it. Because I'm a weak bitch, and that's all it takes. So I picked it up, and I forgot that it's Marina Zapata. That was my main thing. Like, I had no real interest in reading the book, but I didn't focus on the author. Like, I didn't ban the author from my life after Kulti. I didn't like Kulti, but I didn't hate Kulti with a passion. So I forgot it was Marina Zapata. So about 60% into the book, when the characters were still doing jack shit, I was like, oh, I forgot this is supposed to be a slow burn. And my lord, the slow was burnt. It was burnt very slow as fuck. Oh my god, it's so long and nothing happens. But I think I gave it 4 stars. So, premise. Our girl, our heroine, works for this like football. He's a footballer, not a hockey player this time. Works for this football superstar who's very focused on his career as a PA. Not sure if she's actually a PA because she does pretty much everything from like social media to emails to cleaning to cooking. I don't know how much this bitch is paid, but that's a lot of shit to do for one person. Until eventually she finally saves enough money and she decides to quit. And she worked for him for 2 years. So she's a little bit salty about the fact that when she said she's quitting, he didn't even nod his head, like nothing. He was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Very upsetting to her, babe bitch. So she quits. She says, fuck you, and she gets the fuck out of there. Until a couple days later, he's knocking on her door and being like, so I'm a rich, famous football player, but I'm Canadian. Following along here? I'm Canadian. I want to stay in this country. I need someone to marry me. I'm trying to suspend my disbelief real hard here that a super famous football player can't figure out a way to stay in the US legally without having to marry someone illegally, because this is, you know, not legal to fake a marriage. But whatever, I guess I can pretend that money doesn't buy you everything. So at first she's like, nah, until eventually she's like, yeah. They get married, they start to live together, and from then on, jack shit happens except like small progressions in their like relationship until the very end. That's the premise, that's the book. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. I don't know if I can say I didn't love it. I did really enjoy it. I thought the characters took too long, not even to like bang, because Lord knows they took too long to bang, but to go from like 2 people coexisting in the same space to actually caring about each other. That part was like a good 200 pages in this, like, admittedly not a small book, but 200 pages worth of literally just like these 2 characters having no feelings, no interest in each other, her being upset that he doesn't care, him not giving a single fuck about anything, was a little too much for me. Like, once they started caring about each other and their friendship blossomed, that's when I was like, okay, I'm into this. I'm interested. I don't even care that this relationship won't, like, occur until the very last 10 pages of the book. I'm in it. But until then, I was so done. I thought this would be, like, a 1 star, honestly, and I was scared because a lot of people really love this book. The last 2 books on here are The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, which we all know what this is. Do I need to explain what this is? This is a sci-fi book. It's like the most famous sci-fi book in existence, apart from a few others that I can not think of right now. It was fun. It was a lot. It's narrated by Stephen Fry. Yeah, we know. We already know. I already explained. Stephen Fry is my bae. So I listened to it. I loved it. I thought it was really good. I thought it was very witty. I don't have a lot to say about it that's going to be in any way original. People have been speaking about this book for like the last decade, so I'm a little late to the party, just a tad. I gave it 5 out of 5. Then I kind of read My Bloodlines by whoever the fuck wrote this, which is a reverse Harlem bully romance. I think it's supposed to be a bully romance. I'm not sure. Okay, this is the final book. And we're gonna get down and like, you know, catch our second wind for the final book because this shit was not great. My Bloodlines in some ways reminded me of Just Drop Out, this bitch, whom I love. I love Just Drop Out. It was some of the most like wild trash fire I've ever read. The kids in there are supposed to be 15-year-old drug dealers, drug users, mafia leaders, secret agents, hardcore killers, all while, you know, doing their math homework. And, you know, for some reason, I was really into it. I thought it was like the best thing I've read in a while because this was the most wild ride any fucking literature has ever taken me on. So it's kind of like looking for the same kind of feeling because I usually in any kind of bully, reverse Harlem, normal bully romance really enjoy the first book when the characters are meeting and whatnot, but then kind of fall off the wagon as it goes. So I wanted to find another first book in a series that's similar. So I read My Bloodlines. Not the same thing. Not the same thing at all. The girl, she was still over the top badass, but boring. The guys had not a lot of personality between them. The plot. Mom comes and is like, you have to attend an academy for criminals. And she's like, I don't wanna. And she's like, you have to, because otherwise they'll kill you. Who's they? Doesn't matter. Great. And there's actually an academy for killers. They have lessons like, what was it? Burglary and like extortion and Lord knows what else. It was the most hilarious shit ever. But like, it wasn't self-aware. If this book was even a little bit self-aware and like acknowledged the fact that like, what the fuck am I reading? Maybe I would have liked it more. This was not the case. Not the case at all. Pieced out at 75% because the characters all started getting together like at 70% of the book, of the series. Like, if this was the first book, okay, fine, we have to rush these relationships. But the fact that they didn't even get together at 70%. They already started, like, proclaiming their feelings at 70%, much less, like, they started getting together way before that. And I know this is a dumb complaint to have when I just complained that The Wall of Winnipeg and me took too long to get together. But this is different. This is entirely different. That was like close proximity, marriage of convenience shit. And this is hate to love. Hate to love doesn't make sense if it happens in the first 20% of the book. Do you know what I mean? Alright, and those were all of the books I read in January. It's hot. I want to eat my pasta. I have nothing else to say. This video was a little bit of a disaster, but it's fine. Maybe I'll see you in February. Maybe I'll see you next month. Maybe I won't. We'll see how it goes. Thank you for watching, and bye.